Hi everybody, I am so happy that you've decided to spend some time with me tonight, and I thought that where it's the full moon and it just feels like a nice magical night that we could talk a little bit about the goddess and God and how I connect with the goddess and God. And if you are someone that's new to a pagan or witchy path, maybe I can help you connect with your very own goddess and God or find your own spiritual path. So that's my plan for tonight. I am still kind of grossly sick. I'm getting over a cold. And I tried to film this video earlier and I went into too many coughing fits and couldn't, so I'm hoping that now it'll be a little bit better and that we'll get through this video okay. Yeah, and I'm just really happy that you're here. So yeah, all that good stuff. I got purple hair right now. I wanted to go for like a violet kind of lilac lavender blonde, and my hairdresser warned me. She said that it's going to be really purple until you wash it, and she was not lying. It is really purple, as you can see, but I really like it, so I'm happy with the change. It's been probably 7 years since I've been anything but blonde, so this is a really big change for me. I've got a nice pug cup today, some ice cold water, which I desperately need, so hopefully I won't have too many coughing fits, and we can get through this video together. But I wrote some points down because I know, like, I had someone recently come to me and say, like, how do I find my God? What do I do? Like, how do I connect with the goddess and God? I want to have that kind of relationship, and they asked me for some advice. So I thought that I would make a video on my experience. So I just wrote down a couple of things here to keep me on track and make sure that I make all the points that, look at that pimple, my goodness. Make sure that I make all the points that I wanted to make, and I hope that there is something in this video that is helpful to you in your journey, and I wish you the best with your attempts at connecting to a higher power. I believe that it is something that takes patience, and it is well worth it. Like any relationship, you have to form it over time, and I think that connecting with the goddess and God is no different. For this video, I should say, I want to keep it really simple and really basic. So when I speak goddess, I'm mostly talking about the moon and using that moon energy. And when I speak about the God, I'm talking about sun and using the sun energy. And I kind of see the earth, that's kind of where we're connected. So if we think about the tarot card, the Magician, it represents as above, so below, and I look at that like as above, the sun and the moon, and so below the earth, which is us. And when we connect the sun and the moon with the earth, then we kind of create something that's perfect and eternal and magical. And I feel like we can use the powers of the sun and the moon to really fulfill our lives here on earth. So I guess that's what I kind of want to talk about. So my first thing I want you to think about when you're thinking about working with goddess and God energy is keep it simple. For me, that's the moon and the sun. For other people, that could be deciding on which deity they want to worship. But if you're starting out on a path or you're trying to connect with the goddess and God on a deeper level, my advice to you would be to focus on certain deities later. Let that naturally come. Don't try to force it, and just keep it simple with the goddess and God. I look at it like we need them, like even from like my very ignorant, uneducated, scientific, logical view is that we need the sun and we need the moon to live. Like if we didn't have them, we would either be freezing cold and non-existent, or the oceans would swallow us up. So we need them. We need the sun and moon. We need that to have life. So to look at them, to look at those heavenly bodies as God, really came natural to me, and it just made sense and it was easy. And that's what it should be for you. It should be easy. You shouldn't have to feel like you're doing all this work to connect. It should just come easy. And it takes time, but it's definitely not I guess my point is, like, whatever you're going to worship, it should just make sense to you. So whether that's seeing the earth as goddess, as fertile goddess, and seeing the sun as God, or the forest as God, or, you know, whatever that is for you, as long as it makes sense to you and it seems like something that is logical to you, well, then that's all that matters. Nothing else matters but how you view the goddess and God. So I want to begin by just saying that. Little disclosure. To connect with the goddess, looking at the goddess as the moon, what are some ways that you can kind of begin to form that relationship? So step number one would be for sure to sit in the moonlight. Whether you do that through a window and you can kind of see the moon, or you go right outside and you sit in the moonlight, make sure you're spending time in the moonlight. And just like pay attention to the moon phases. Keep track of them. Keep track of how they affect you. If you're female, do they affect your cycles? Do they affect your moods? Or if you're male, do they affect your moods? Do you feel differently when there's a full moon? Do you have more energy? Do you feel a little crazy? Or when it's a waning moon, do you feel like you want to get rid of things? Or just see how your body reacts during the different moon phases. I think you'll be surprised at how linked you are to the moon. So that's a couple of really easy things to do. I also think that when you want to connect with Goddess, we want to think about that fertile mother energy, which to me is, of course, Mama Moon, but also the earth. So think about how can you connect more with the earth? What's an easy way that you can connect more with the earth? Which could be just going out in bare feet and just walking around in the grass, or putting your hands on the earth, or maybe it's planting a seed and then watching it grow and nurturing that plant like it's your own child, like a mother would. That's an easy way to begin to introduce yourself to that earthly goddess energy, to Goddess. Pay attention to how you feel at night, or in the forest, or outside. Does nature feel like your church? Does nature feel like a sacred place to you? If it does, and you're still like not sure how to get in touch with Goddess and God, well, half of your battle's already done, because you already see nature as somewhere as holy or somewhere sacred. So embrace that, work with those feelings, and see where it takes you. I think that it'll lead you down the path to your God. Pay attention to signs. So maybe every time you sit in the moonlight, a raven or a crow flies by, or a bat flies by. Well, maybe that bat that you see every night is Nyx reaching out to you. Or maybe that crow or raven was Hecate, or, you know, so many other goddesses. Or maybe planting the seeds on the earth made you feel connected to Gaia. Gaia? I don't know. So just see, like, pay close attention. Do certain animals cross your path every time? Or what about plants? Are you drawn to a certain tree? Are you drawn to a certain flower? Are you especially talented at growing a certain flower? Maybe you are an amazing rose gardener. And I hope I'm not flashing you guys. My shirt keeps falling down. It's hotter than the devil's dick in here, I'll be honest with you. Maybe that's my fever. I don't know. But... and I don't even know what I was saying. This is gonna get comfortable here. Make sure my boobs are in check. Sorry, guys. See, the grossness is starting. I was really hoping that the cough would stay away. But anyway, pay attention. Do you have an affinity with plants? Look up what planet is associated with that plant. Maybe that's your god. Maybe that's your goddess. Maybe Venus is your goddess. Maybe, you know, just keep it really simple. Look for signs. Don't actively quest, I guess. Like, just go day by day and just see what signs are out there. See what they're trying to show you. I wanted to talk about drawing down the moon, because I read about that a lot when I was first starting my craft. And I always read these stories about how people in a circle felt the goddess. And they felt the silverly, I can't even talk, silver energy going into their bodies. And you know what, like, I've done this a lot of times, and I'll tell you, I've had experiences where I did feel a burst of energy, or I did feel like a connection. And I don't know if that was me, my psychological, like my brain, or what, but it took a long time. And you read these books about people having these profound experiences, and you kind of build yourself up for that, and when it doesn't happen, it can be really discouraging. So my advice to you is to don't let that stop you. Don't let that bother you. Keep working at it. Keep trying to draw down the moon. Keep trying to connect with Goddess, because eventually you will have that moment. And whatever that is for you, I mean, it could be anything, but you'll have a feeling. You will have a moment where you're like, wow, like I connected to something bigger than myself. And it might not be how it was written in a book. And we're going to talk about books in a little bit. Or it might not be how a friend or a coven mate had experienced it, but that's okay. It's your experience. It's your path. So however you experience it, take that as a sign of deeper connection. With the God, it's kind of the same thing. So I look at the sun as God. And when I first started, like I say, I really kept to that. God is the sun, Goddess is the moon. Kept it really basic. And I would just sit out in the sun, and I would put my pale ass out there and try to connect with that solar energy of God and that masculine energy of God. And same thing, draw down the sun, sit out in the sun. And I find that it's easier than drawing down the moon, because of course we physically feel the sun on us. And just sit in the sun and just soak in that energy, soak in that God energy, soak in that masculine energy, and just see how it makes you feel. Pay attention to that. Oh my gosh, so much drinking, so dry, so sick still. I just want to feel better. Go outside. I think that's a big thing with paganism and Wicca and all of that good stuff, is that you have to go outside. You have to try to connect with nature. Before you're going to connect with anything else, you need to go outside. So I wrote that down. Pay close attention to animals. So again, is a stag always crossing your path, or do you see a deer, or if you're in Canada, a crazy moose, or dogs, or birds of a certain kind? Look them up and see what associations they have, just like you would for Goddess. You might have a god that's trying to connect with you that you had no idea even existed until you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It's different when we are looking for God as adults versus when we are kids and we're told we have to believe in this. We have to believe in this God. It's so much easier when you're a kid than when you're an adult. So keep an open mind and try your best to figure out the puzzle, because I do believe that we are getting signs all the time from the divine. Signs from the divine. A rhyme indeed. A rhyme for the time. Sorry. I'm also on cold medicine, guys, so bear with me here. Bear with me. Spend time at a forest or a park. That's a really, really good way to connect with God. I find you want to connect with that wild energy. I read about forest bathing, and I don't even know if that's a real thing, but apparently in Japan, where everything is super more cool, people do this thing, forest bathing, where they just go into the forest and kind of soak in that energy and breathe and relax and listen to the forest. And it's supposed to be like a form of meditation, which makes perfect sense to me. I did this on the weekend, sick as hell, and it was a really, really cool experience. I just was out at a nature park, and I walked the trails, and I was with my husband and a friend of his from work, but I just took him some time during that to just go off on my own, or while they were exploring things, and I just kind of listened to the forest and walked around and tried to connect with God that way. And it was, I have to say, very empowering. It felt good, and I did feel so much more relaxed, and I think that was better medicine than any cold pills I could have put in my body. I think with a God too, how do I phrase this? I find that Goddess energy is almost a little bit more passive. It's a little bit more like calm. It's a little bit more reserved, I guess, mysterious maybe, where God energy I find is more active. So to connect with God, it's really, really good to do physical and active things. So some simple things to do would be to dedicate a fast to God. Just dedicate a fast. Like today, I'm not going to eat, and I'm going, or, you know, do it safely, obviously. But maybe you're going to skip a meal and you're going to dedicate that to the God. And I am not condoning not eating or anything. I mean, I get all of my meals, believe me, but I definitely think that that's a good way to connect, is to actually make a sacrifice, especially if you're into gods like Odin, for example, who has made many sacrifices. I think he would appreciate something like that. So think about different gods and how you can connect with God by sacrificing something like a meal. Dedicate an activity to the gods. So it could be something as simple as mowing the lawn. It could be cleaning your house. It could be getting some chores done, or doing something outside, doing some work outside. But dedicate it to the God. Dedicate it and say, you know, this is for you. I'm doing this for you. And just, you don't even have to have a specific God to be talking to. Think about that sun and dedicate something to that sun energy, and just see how you feel afterwards. Another fun thing to do when you want to connect with God energy is look for the green man. So as humans, we naturally try to put faces on inanimate objects. I mean, I have tiles in my bathroom, and I can tell you how many times I've seen different faces in those tiles. Or, you know, you look at a plant and just the way it's shaped, you see a face. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. Take that and use it to your advantage. Go out and spend some time, look at some trees. Now's a wonderful time with the leaves kind of coming out, and see if you can find any faces in the trees. You might be surprised. The green man could be right there with you all along, and maybe you just didn't see it. So do that, or take pictures and then kind of look at the pictures and see if you can see any faces in the trees. And I wouldn't be surprised if you found the green man. And if you do this, and if you do any of these exercises, please share it with me. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about your experiences finding the green man, or connecting with Goddess, or drawing down the moon. I love hearing other people's experiences. So definitely give those things a try. Now I have written down just a couple of extra tips for you to connect to the Goddess and God, and to just keep it simple. So books, when you're first starting, or even when you're established. I can't talk, guys, I'm so sorry. So stuffed up still and stuff. I'm gonna have a hot magical bath after this, and it's gonna be fabulous. When you're reading books, you have to remember, or you're reading articles online, the author is going to put the best part, the best experience in the book. They're not going to talk about all those times they sat outside in the moonlight and felt like a weirdo and didn't feel anything. They're going to tell you about that one time where they felt that spark. You have to remember that. You have to remember that it's the best stories that get into the books. It's the best stories that get put online. It's not going to be those everyday kind of whatever moments, and we all have them. So don't let someone else's experience or profound experience make you feel any less special on your path to finding God and Goddess, because it will happen for you at your own time when it's meant to happen. And I'll tell you right now, I have a deep connection to my deities that I did find, but I have never had like cast a circle and was like, oh hey Anubis, how you doing, and welcome to the circle. Like, it's never been like that for me. I've never drawn down the moon and felt like a crazy surge of energy, or looked at my coven mates or circle mates and was like, we all felt it. I'm sure maybe it'll happen someday. I'm not gonna give up on it, but just because I haven't had those experiences, I'm not gonna discount smaller, more little experiences that I have had as nothing as well. If you guys know what I'm trying to say. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So deity, that's basically my point. It was what I was trying to say, is that deity, like, it is what it is, and you're gonna get the experience you're gonna get. Don't compare your experience to others, or don't feel bad. Be kind to yourself. No pressure. Remember, it's a new friendship. So think about when you met your first best friend. Like, when you first met them, it was probably awkward or weird. Or when you met your partner, think about a first date and how awkward and weird that is. And then you get to know one another, and then you're best friends, and then you're inseparable, and everything is awesome. It takes a while to get to that point. So understand that deity, goddess, and God are no different. I'm just gonna make sure I'm not flashing you guys. Goddess and God are the same thing. So take your time. Don't rush it. Don't pressure yourself. Things will fall into place when they're meant to. So be kind. It's like a new friendship. Again, I made a point. I made a little note here. When you were a kid, it was easy. So I think back to when I was a kid, and I, you know, I was told to believe in God. I was told to believe in Jesus and Mary, and it was like, okay, no problem. And I felt connections to spirit. I felt connections to God, and I felt like, not so much God, but to Mary. I felt really deep connections to her as a kid, and it was just so easy. It was so easy. The same as believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. I mean, it was easy. And this is no different. When you go and you become pagan and you're connecting with new goddess and gods, it's no different from when you were a kid and you were trying to connect with God or Jesus or whatever you were born, whatever faith you were born into. You have to look at it like when you were a kid, and you have to have an open mind, and you gotta leave your judgment at the door. You have to stop second guessing yourself. You have to stop judging yourself, and just remember that it's gonna happen when it happens, and just be kind to yourself. I guess I'm getting kind of rambly. Don't get caught up on what's right and wrong. This is my favorite. I've read so many things about what's right, what's wrong. I've been reading up on Nyx recently because I want to do a rededication to her at Yule, which is like 7 months from now. So it's a while away. I've got lots of time to plan. But I get reading and it's like, don't mess around with this goddess, and you know, she'll either bring dreams, or she'll bring night visions, or she'll bring death. And I think, like, how many people read that and didn't connect with Nyx because they were scared that the goddess was going to kill them? Like, how many people have been killed by their god? Like, I mean, don't let other people's rules set you back. It's the same as people who say you have to worship all the gods from the same pantheon. Says who? Why? Why? We're like a melting pot. Obviously, cultural appropriation is a real thing, and I think it's something we definitely need to be more aware of, and we have to respect. But if I want to worship Nyx, and I also feel a connection to the Blessed Mother, and then I also feel a connection to Lucifer, and I have this absolute love affair with Anubis, I'm not going to not explore those feelings or those relationships because someone in a book told me that I have to, if I'm going to worship Nyx, then I have to worship her partner in the pantheon. And I've read things like, you know, it causes chaos in your circle when you have these different gods, or they won't get along. And I've read so many things like this over the years, and I think, like, I'm pretty sure the gods aren't going to get their panties in a twist because I have Anubis and Nyx and I'm wearing a necklace for both and I'm thinking about both. Like, I just don't see that as an issue. And I'm no expert, but I really don't feel like you're going to have any problems if you wanted to worship different gods from different pantheons, as long as you're respectful of their culture and you don't try to steal the cultures that they come from, and that you show some form of respect. I don't think you have to worry about that. So don't let someone's rules stop you. Do what feels right to you. This is your connection to God. This is your connection to Goddess. So what matters is how you connect, how you feel. It doesn't matter how I feel, or somebody else, or an author in a book, or your best friend. It's all about you. It's all about your connection. At the end of the day, you're the only person that matters. This is your world. You're creating it. So connect however you want, my friends. And then my last point is, sometimes you won't connect to a god that you want to. So that's happened to me. I had my family DNA done. I did one of those ancestry things, and take it for what it is. I mean, who knows, right? But it told me that which I already knew, it didn't tell me much that I didn't know, but it told me that I have family from Germany, which I do, from northern Germany, and I have ancestors from Norway, and I have like Scandinavian blood in me. And so I thought, well, I've always been interested in Odin and I want to connect with him. And I get nothing. I get knock on the door and there's nobody home. And maybe it's just not the right time for me in Odin. Maybe it's because I already have 4 deities that I'm quite close to and there's no more room in the bed. But I don't get that. I don't get it from him, and I feel like really my personality and then Odin's personality, I don't think that we fit well, but I wanted to kind of worship the god who I think my ancestors would have worshipped, but I just don't feel that. So I'm not going to feel bad because I'm more calling to Anubis than I am Odin, and I'm not going to go and beat myself up over it. It is what it is. You're called to who you're called to, and when it happens, it just happens. The thing is I guess I'll elaborate a little bit more too, is that when I talk about being called to Anubis or called to Nyx or called to these different gods, it all stemmed from connecting to the moon and the sun and the earth. And look at the little heart, the earth. Yeah, that's where it all stemmed from. When I first started, there was no Anubis, there was no Nyx, there was, the Blessed Mother was around because of my being raised Catholic, but really, I mean, I was on my own, and it was the earth and the sun and the moon that to me made me feel connected to the divine, and nature felt like my church. And then as time went on, I started seeing those signs, and I started seeing different symbols that made me think, ooh, like that makes me think about Nyx, that makes me think about this goddess that I really, really like, or I feel connected to Anubis because of my work, or you know, things like, it'll just happen, and when it does, it's awesome, but you don't have to pressure yourself. And I know myself as a practicing witch for many years, I still don't have this like conversations with Anubis. I just don't. Like, but I can tell you that when my dad was sick and my dad went into cardiac arrest, and he's okay, but he was dead for 25 minutes. And I can remember asking Anubis, like, please, please, please help my dad. Please help me. Please give me some peace. I felt a warm presence in my room, and I felt comfort from him. And that was it. That was all it was. And that was like the most profound experience that I've had with him so far. And I've been following him and worshiping him for probably 10 years, if not more. But that's kind of what it's like. It's like warm feelings, or if I'm being a little bit bad, you know, I'll think about Lucifer, and I can just kind of feel this badness inside of me that is me. It's definitely my psyche, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I kind of get a little vibe from him. And I do find, and I've spoken to a friend about this, the male gods seem to be a little bit more, willing and accepting, where I find the goddesses, you have to work on it a little bit. They want you to really mean it when you say that you want to follow them. But it's worthwhile, and I really, really hope that this video wasn't too rambly, and I hope that somewhere in all of this crazy cold infestedness, you found something that will help you connect with Goddess and God. Please do not hesitate to share with me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear about your journey. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I just hope that you have an absolutely amazing night, and I am so glad that you decided to spend this past half hour with me while I rambled on and listened to me cough and all my grossness. Yeah, I guess that's it. So happy hunting, and I know that you're gonna find success, and it's easy peasy. Keep it simple, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have an amazing full moon. Good night.